Hi, my name is Isabel Mitchell and I'm a senior at Conroe High School. I plan to attend Texas A&M University and major in biomedical sciences next year. And in this AP review video, I want to go over some memories I had from AP biology class, some tips and some resources I used to study for the biology test. One of my favorite parts about AP biology this year was doing labs in class. We put all our labs in our lab notebook that I had to share with chemistry, and our labs looked like this. We wrote them in the notebook. I just thought it was really helpful in understanding some of the concepts, as being able to see them, up close and how things worked. It was also fun getting to work in groups for the labs because I felt like I was able to connect with my table members better, and that way we could work together on other assignments or help each other study in the future. My least favorite part of AP Biology this year, however, was preparing for the AP test. I found it hard to go back and remember things we learned 3, 4, 5 months in advance. What really got me through that was my notes. So that's one of the most important things I learned this year, was that notes are so important, especially in AP Bio. Most of my notes had pictures, and it made it easy for reviewing for the AP test. If I couldn't remember something, I could just flip back through to that page in my notes. My biggest piece of advice for being successful in AP Biology was making quick study cards. Regardless of it's required for a grade or extra credit, it was a great way for me personally to study before our unit test. I was able to write out concepts I didn't fully understand and put down pictures. My quick study cards looked like this. So I would do this before every unit test. I know some people would wait until after the unit test, but I don't think that would be very helpful when working on the test. And the benefits are twofold, because I could use it to study for the unit test, and I could use it at the end of the year to study for the AP test. My second biggest tip is to treat your quizzes like they're part of the test. I tried not to use my notes on most of the quizzes. I know we were allowed to, but I tried to just go through and see what I knew and I didn't know. And then I used the quiz questions to study for the test, because a lot of the quiz questions ended up being on the test. And then another way I studied for unit tests, and that I could also use to go back and study for the AP test, were the unit assignments in College Board. It was between 20 to 30 questions every unit, and I would go through and do that the night before the test or the week before, and I would make flashcards of the questions I had missed. That way, I did the same with the quizzes, make flashcards of the questions I missed. That way I wouldn't miss them again, and I understand what I did wrong. That helped me make sure I wouldn't re-miss questions. Another piece of advice that I learned a lot the last part of this semester was be on top of your work. AP Biology is a very interesting and fun class, but it can also be a lot of work, especially if you put stuff off until the last minute. It starts to pile up, especially if you're taking other AP classes on top of that. Also, being present while your teacher is lecturing or doing notes or anything like that. If you're not present, you might have the notes, but you don't understand what's on the notes. That's something I really tried to do this year, was make sure I didn't have any distractions. I didn't have my phone out while we were taking notes. I wasn't looking at something on the computer. I tried to really focus on what Miss Almanza was saying, because sometimes she would say things that didn't end up on the notes but were beneficial for me in when taking the unit test, and some stuff she said even stuck with me that I took to the AP test. So that's another really important. Those are my 5 most important tips for surviving AP biology. One resource I found beneficial in studying for exams in the AP test was Khan Academy. If I didn't understand a concept or I wanted a quick refresher, you can look up an article or even a video on Khan Academy, and it can give you some practice questions. That's on top of the unit assignments and the quizzes. That was something that wasn't provided, but I found to be useful for our tests. If I could go back and redo AP biology, one thing I would have done differently was spending more time studying before the exam. This year I would typically start studying 2 days before the exam. That 2 days before, I would work on the College Board assignments. The day before, I would review the College Board assignments, work on my quick study card, and review my quizzes. But if I could go back and do it again, I'd probably start a week before, maybe not a week before, but maybe between 4 and 5 days before the test. That way I really had time to go over my notes, and if there was anything missing, I had time to learn those things through videos instead of just memorizing them, because a lot of times I thought I had it memorized and then I'd get on the test and I'd have no idea what it was. So it's important to actually learn concepts instead of trying to remember them, because a lot of times your memory will fail you. Lastly, my biggest takeaway from AP biology was not to focus on the numerical grade I had in that class, because that can very easily become an obsession and you would end up only caring about the grade instead of learning the concepts. I learned that if I truly paid attention, took everything Miss Almanza said and put them in my notes, and I actually learned and studied what we were going over, that I could use that on the test, and that brought up my grades instead of just doing it for the grades, if that makes sense. So yeah, this is my How to Survive AP Biology video.